Hello, I'm Dr. Patrice Berry, and here I share educational videos on a variety of topics. Today, I wanted to do a quick video on emotional intelligence. My reference for a lot of the information that I'll be sharing today comes from the work of Dr. Daniel Goleman, and I'll link some resources on the YouTube channel. Emotional intelligence, as defined by Dr. Goleman, is the ability to manage your own emotions and also understand and recognize the emotions of others. People with high emotional intelligence typically tend to be more successful within their professional lives and within their personal lives. And the goal is that this is something that can be built and developed within anyone. People with high emotional intelligence tend to know what they're feeling. They typically understand what their emotions mean and how these can affect other people. And so Dr. Goleman gives 5 elements to emotional intelligence, and they include self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. The ones that I wanted to focus on today in this video are self-awareness and self-regulation. Typically, when I meet with people, they don't tend to have a lot of words to describe their emotions. Going beyond mad, sad, or angry, and happy, like most people don't have a lot of other words to describe how they're feeling. And so the first step to becoming more emotionally intelligent, to kind of build emotional intelligence, is to get a wider emotional vocabulary. And this comes from those feeling charts, and I'll link some of my favorites down below. Within parenting, within life, there are a lot of things that invalidate emotions, where if someone comes and they say they're upset, people are like, why are you upset? Or like a lot of things invalidate emotions, and having people first know what they're feeling, because often we look to others to validate our emotions. And that starts in childhood and it can go into adulthood as well. Something that I do with a lot of the clients that I work with is to help them validate their own emotions, especially if they're age 10 or older, to know that what you're feeling is okay. Because we give meaning to emotions that don't actually belong there. So there's nothing wrong with being sad. There's nothing wrong with being angry. It's great to feel happy. Like there's not anything wrong with any one emotion. It's often the behaviors that we associate with emotions that are actually the problem. And so there's a way to address that behavior while still validating that emotion. With all that's currently going on in the world, I'm recording this on August 8th, and really building emotional intelligence with children, especially now that many parents are going to be homeschooling their children, or they're going to be providing tutors, or they're going to have more time with their family. Identifying, hey, every night, what's one good thing from your day and what's one not so good thing from your day? A friend of mine called that roses and thorns. Like, what's one good thing? What are a few good things? And what are some not so good things that happen? Giving people permission to, hey, like sometimes things don't always go your way. How did you handle it? How did you manage it? And going against that idea that people have to be perfect. Because sometimes people will think, oh, I have to say everything's okay in order to get love, support, or they can't really let people know how they're really feeling. That can be very lonely and isolating, and in my work, that typically increases depression. Anxiety is another tricky emotion, so I saw a resource, and if I find it, I will link it below as well, that talked about the different umbrella emotions, because I had always thought of anger as an umbrella emotion, where under anger, there's often frustration, grief, rejection. Like there's normally other things under anger, but also with sadness. Sadness can be covering a multitude of deeper emotions. And so getting to the root when you're having a strong feeling, where is this coming from? Is this being triggered by this current situation or by other things that I haven't dealt with? And working with a counselor can be a great way to grow emotional intelligence. There are also lots of self-help things. Like if this is an area that, it's not causing major issues in your life, but it's just the area you'd like to grow in, there are lots of self-help things that people can do to grow in the area of emotional intelligence. Some tips to grow self-awareness is to keep a journal. There are also some mood tracking apps where you can kind of a few times a day, you can track how you're feeling. And that can be a great way to just check in because often we go through our day without even doing a self-assessment of what's going on in my body, what's going on in my emotions, what's going on with me in this moment. Like we often just push through the day. And by the end of the day, it's like, oh, I'm so tired. And it can be difficult to really check in at that time. I like to check in with myself first thing in the morning because if I wake up in kind of a not so great mood, then I know there are things I can do to get into a better mood and that waking up that way doesn't have to ruin the rest of the day. So another tip that I have that I like to go with is that feelings aren't facts. So just because I feel a certain way doesn't mean that it's necessarily true. And I can validate the feeling that, yes, I am feeling this way without validating, because maybe I'm misreading something. Maybe with someone in my life, I'm misinterpreting what they're thinking or what they did. And yes, I am feeling this way, but is there any evidence that goes against that feeling? Did that person actually tell me? That's a huge one. Reading other people's feelings, reading other people's emotions. And if you think that maybe someone's upset about something, checking in with them to say, hey, are we good? Hey, are you mad at me? Because there might be something going on in that person's life and it may have nothing to do with you. And that's where people really being honest about how they're doing, about how they're feeling, that can be extremely helpful. And so taking time to really slow down and check in with yourself to see how you're doing, especially if you are having more difficult times, that can be really good to then be able to empower yourself that this emotion doesn't now have to ruin this day. And that there are things, and I like to think of those as coping skills, or those are certain tools or resources that you have to be able to get to a better space. And that moves us right into self-regulation. And so self-regulation is the ability to regulate your own emotions, regulate your own behaviors. So emotions, behaviors, and thoughts are often connected. In counseling, we call it the cognitive triad, where behaviors or thoughts and feelings, like they all interact with one another. And if any one of those or if two of those things are out of whack, like you're typically going to be a little bit off. But if I change how I'm thinking or if I'm change what I'm doing. And so a great thing that you can do is if you're feeling kind of down, if you're not really feeling like doing anything, acting opposite and actually doing it anyway. There are some great skills, especially for emotion regulation, called dialectical behavior skills, DBT skills. Those are ones that I practice for myself. I practice mindfulness, just taking things, being in the moment, because I'm very much a doer. I like to have a million things going on at one time. It's hilarious at night when I stop kind of playing on my phone. I typically just fall asleep. And so being able to just, if I'm in a moment, to be able to step back and actually enjoy it. Because I am typically, like, especially as a new business owner, there's always an email, there's always kind of something that I could be doing. And that's something that I'm going to continue to practice, because that's something that you have to, it doesn't come naturally. It doesn't just, your brain just naturally gets into doer mode and not necessarily experiencing your day. If you're kind of wired to be more type A, or if you're wired more like a doer. So sometimes, especially with self-regulation, people excuse bad behavior because of certain feelings. And that's in my anger management video that I'll probably link below as well. That, oh, they made me feel mad, or they made me feel this way. And that really gives the other person a ton of power. And I don't want anyone else to have the power to ruin my entire day. Now, it might ruin the next 5 minutes, 30 minutes, hour, but I have the power, because if I'm saying I allowed that to kind of get me off track, now I am able to get myself back on track. It's not that now this person has to apologize in order for me to be okay. So when you put things on other people, so like if they then, the only way I can be okay is if they do something, once again, that puts you in a powerless situation. In the moment, it can feel powerful, like I'm going to hold on to this. I'm going to hold this grudge. And a forgiveness video is probably one that I'll do down the road. But holding on to pain, holding on to things, it typically only hurts you. That other person might be going on with their life, enjoying things, like they may not be affected, or if they know that you're upset and maybe they might be kind of like, I wonder what's going on with them. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to apologize or that they're going to come back and do or say something. And so being aware of how you can take responsibility for your own emotions, for your own behaviors, for your own thoughts, that can be extremely helpful and kind of increasing productivity at home, at work, and just in your regular everyday life. And so I will link an article where I got a lot of this information, and it kind of goes into those other tips. If you like these types of videos, make sure to hit that like, subscribe button so that you can get updates on what's going on with this channel. I typically do post on Instagram and my Facebook business page. Feel free to follow me there. I know I have some resources on the business page. I also have a Facebook group. It's just a group where I share things for parents to kind of help teach some of these skills. And if you'd like to see any specific content, you can message me through Facebook or Instagram, and I will do my best to answer any basic questions that you have. Or potentially, if you're looking for some specific content, I can create some content around something that you're interested in. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.